Welcome back, traders. How are we doing in AMC Apes? How are we doing today, guys? We have a video today on stock ticker AMC. Stay with me now because I know it's been nothing but bearish, but I'm going to try to find the good within all this ugly. And that's okay, right? You're in a pretty crazy value area in which you saw your bounce off of the all-time low of 205. Now you bounced and you held and you wicked off of that bottom weekly Bollinger Bands pretty perfectly after this depressing decrease in price followed by this decrease in volume. Right, you had your selling climax, but what I don't like is your volume reaction off of the all-time low was so poquito, es muy poquito, very small compared to your previous all-time low. Previous all-time low was 116 million shares. This was 110 million shares. So although similar, nothing compared to your previous bearish volume. So we're going to have to see what that follow through looks like next week. If it is a smaller candle than that, I would be a little worried that you would come back down and make one more low before you make a higher high. However, on AMC on the daily time frame, you have something to look at for a little bit of a retracement. You have a daily gap left at approximately 230 that I think you're going to fill next week. But what you're doing that's genuinely a good sign on AMC, like genuinely a good thing, is you are crossing the 50 line, and you've successfully crossed the 50 line for the first time since back here. Now this cross took you up. That cross took you up 10%. And that's not nothing because you've seen the last two times you rejected it perfectly. And then made a lower low in the all-time price. So what we're watching for are two things, right? We're watching for this potential trickle down into the gap fill and then a mean reversal, or we're watching for price to kind of just hold steady, right? And if you can hold steady just like you did back here, you're going to create a shoulder, head, right shoulder, and what those end up doing, right, is you're looking at the flat top, looking at your neckline, and you're taking that valley to the neckline, sticking it on top of the neckline. Where that takes you is about $3. So that test of $3 would be freaking crucial, guys. Freaking crucial. But what you are looking at in the broader scheme of things is a macro falling wedge. A macro falling wedge that you've been trading within ever since 2023. And what is so important about this falling wedge is you see, like, look at the past channel. Everyone was talking about this channel back in 2021. I did a little due diligence. I charted AMC back here. Said, what were you doing? Why were you doing it? Trading within this channel. You saw a mean rejection off the top. You then saw a retest of the bottom of that channel. You then saw a trading channel within the falling wedge. And if you're able, guys, to break within $3, you know what you're going to be doing? You're going to be testing the bottom of that channel now, which is now sub $4, which is insane to think about that you were trading up here at $50, and that's the same channel resistance. So that is absolutely fascinating on AMC. And that would be your first time back in that channel, back around that 350 zone since 2022, guys. It's like we're going back in time almost, right? But not to get a little tinfoil for you, you are trading within an ascending triangle on the monthly RSI. Now, that is a bearish thing. But if you can make a tap here, guys, of this trend line, you're going to successfully create bullish divergence on the monthly time frame. And what gets you excited, gets me genuinely excited, is in the weekly time frame, you've already got it. You've already got your bullish divergence on the weekly time frame. And in fact, it's your first bullish divergence, guys, since you didn't have it in the previous all-time low. Or you did, actually. Well, then let's look at that. Let's look at the previous all-time low, and let's look at the bullish divergence that had occurred. You saw this lower low in price, right? Between here and here. Hard to spot, but on the weekly, here and here. Not the case. Okay, you did have it on the daily. So we're looking at it on the daily, right? And you see this dramatic sell-off. That was your low on the RSI back in 2024, January. You then made a higher low on the RSI while making a almost crazy significant lower low. 33% lower low, but a higher low on the RSI. You guys see that, right? Higher low, significant lower low. That is textbook bullish divergence, guys. And what had occurred was you then saw the RSI and the price skyrocket into this symmetrical triangle, which AMC treated as bullish. And then we all know what happened. Ronkity came back, and this thing absolutely shot to Pluto. What you did was you rejected this channel on the daily time frame. Tap, 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 rejection, come back, reject. And now where are you today? Yes, you're below the channel, but you have the opportunity to bust back into it. So I like to think of the 50 line on the RSI, once you finally cross it, which you've done, as a highway. And I say this in many different videos, but let me just rehearse it for you guys right now. The 50 line in the RSI is the decision for the relative strength index of, is the stock bullish short term, or is it bearish? Or is it going to trade sideways into oblivion, right? You saw this rejection, the rejection, and now you're potentially seeing a breakthrough. Now, what that would mean is above this line, think of it like the left lane in the highway. You're going fast, you're moving and grooving, you're volatile, right? And what price typically does is you see these extensions, right? You saw an extension here, you saw an extension here, and price typically above that line is bullish, right? But below it, guys, is where things get capitulated, right? So the fact that we are crossing above it, I think makes us a little bit short-term bullish. I would like to see, however, this gap fill and then you mean reverse. Like, I'm talking mean, guys. So let's get rid of the Bollinger Bands here. And so the good thing is on AMC is this weekly close, you engulfed the previous last 2 weeks of price action while also creating a little bit of support on your weekly MACD. This trend line, or this trend on AMC, the weekly MACD is your best friend. Hands freaking down. Last time you crossed on the weekly MACD was back here in April. You found your low and you ran 61%. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but it's very, very possible, guys, that you see a significant move off of this weekly MACD, as it has not happened prior to this. But I don't even know if you can count that, because this whole thing was just kind of manipulated, kind of messed up, to be honest. I don't know how your weekly MACD stays green through all this, but the flip is what we're looking for, guys. We're watching for the flip of the weekly MACD, and the fact that it's curling right now is bullish. It's curling up. Let's get into, talked about that. Your monthly. Let's talk about the bad scenario in AMC, and it's a very possible scenario depending on what happens with dilution, right? We talked about this channel and the possibility to finally break back into the channel after seeing rejection off that May 2024 squeeze. However, if you do see further share dilution and a negative reaction by the shareholders and institutions, I do anticipate that you're going to revisit this trend line that you've established since IPO 2020. You double tapped it in this bottom. And then you tapped it during this capitulation of the AMC conversion, right? You tapped it at 243. Now, if you came down here, guys, that would be from your all-time low, an additional 38%. Nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants that. To 40% potentially, right? Somewhere on the bottom of this trend line would be one of the largest falling wedges I've ever seen. If you saw that, I would anticipate you rise back up to 360, maybe a lower low, and then boom, right? That is a possibility. But we're going to have to watch how this falling wedge plays out first because you're still trading within it. So there is hope on AMC. There is a reason to be grateful and a reason to be, what's a good word? Optimistic. I think optimistic, fearlessly optimistic because of your weekly bullish divergence, as well as Gamestop looking absolutely filthy. IWM looking absolutely filthy, right? This thing is going to make an all-time high, in my opinion. Not financial advice, but I mean, just look at the volume profile, look at the stock, look at your monthly candle close. Hammer candle. That's disgusting. Look at your previous all-time high. Flat top resistance, bam. Flat top resistance, bam, right? So it's becoming very clear and evident to me that when the market is most bearish, guys, that is when you should be greedy. And this is what we talked about all last month. While everyone was selling their positions, being bears, right? We were inherently greedy, inherently bullish throughout all of it because when the ebbs and the flows happen within the market, guys, it is so likely that you're about to see that reversal. And in this case, I think it is time. I think you're overdue. So that's all I got for today, guys. AMC showing some strength on the weekly. God bless each and every single one of you guys. I'm happy we finally did 1,000. Now let's double it. God bless each and every single one of you guys. The best is yet to come. Peace.